Postcards from Texas felt like the perfect title because it felt like coming out of Palomino. It was very much a travel record. It's very, I don't know, it was fluid. It was a story. It was about traveling through and meeting new people and making memories. And I felt like going home to Austin to record this record with one of my favorite Texans, John Randall, it just felt like little snapshots of being back home. You know, every song felt like something that sounded like home to me. I haven't recorded in Texas since I was 18. Texas has its own sound. I mean, it always has. It's got its own vibe, its own kind of genre of music, and it felt really good to record there, and it felt good to use a lot of Austin-based musicians because it just comes with a different energy, you know. Well, I think there's Willie influence in probably everything we all do. There should be. I think a lot of the classic sounds in this record are from a mix of some Nashville musicians, some Austin musicians, and John and I, and the influences that we grew up with. You know, it's very potent to me. There's a little bit of everything I've ever loved about country on Postcards from Texas. Armadillos are like, I don't know, they're as frequent as Dairy Queen signs in Texas or Whataburger. Like, they're just part of our DNA.
Kind of thing.
Pretty cool.
Because if the guitar could get us out of that, then we could, it's almost like a domino. We can go, well.
Armadillo's just been part of my life, my whole life. So when I heard Armadillo, the song, my friend Aaron Ratier, I said, hey, I'm looking for songs. You know, I really reached outside. I asked all my songwriter friends, like, hey, send me some stuff. I'm looking, I'm gonna go record in Texas, and send me some vibes, you know.
Then he hopped up in a shotgun, then he started rolling one. I said, we gonna get along fine.
And Aaron sent me that song, and I was actually in Austria. We played a festival in Switzerland, and then I stayed for like a vacay, and we were driving down the interstate in Austria, not interstate, I don't know what they call them up there, the road, and I heard Armadillo in my headphones, and I was like, this is the first song I'm cutting. This is it. This is like setting the tone.
Maybe just to count and then get out of it.
That's a good call, yeah.
The Armadillo's bad news, but they are sometimes. He's definitely an outlaw Armadillo. Armadillo just kind of being the character, the Armadillo character in the song is an outlaw, and he's there to cause trouble, and it's also just, it's funny, you know. I've always like drawn to songs that have some humor in them and some wit, you know, and that song definitely does.
Yeah.
He calls her Gilda.
That's what Jesse calls her.
I wanted that song, John and I, we sat together a lot and talked about every song in detail and like what we wanted from each song. But Armadillo was just like, well, first of all, when I sent it to John, I was like, we have to cut this. He was like, 100%, it's the first song we're cutting. Like, you know, it felt like it set the tone because of the humor. It felt like it needed to be a little loose and not, you know, we didn't cut it to a click because it changes tempos, which one of my favorite songs that I do in my set is Tequila Does, because it's loose, it's different every night. And I love that vibe. It makes it fun, it keeps it, you know, interesting. So we just went in there and it was that fast. It was the first song we recorded, and it's the first song on the record. I feel like the Armadillo represents everything that I've experienced growing up in Texas, honestly. Like the outlaw and the coldie and the koozie and the hitchhiking and like, I don't know, just all those, it's like a kitschy version of all those old trucker songs I love.
You gave up to the very last minute. Now that I'm gone, I've got your attention.
Damn It, Randy was definitely like a moment writing that song. It was a moment. It was a moment and a snapshot in time that I won't forget, for sure.
In your double wide, smoking cigarettes like they're going out of style, turning me up on your...
Me and John Randall were having our pre-production meeting at my house in Austin, which is really close to Arlen's studio where we cut, and my husband was there, and we had football on, and we were drinking some tequila and just, you know, talking about what we were gonna do that week, which was go make a new record. And when John, if there's a guitar in the vicinity while we're talking, he has it in his hand. And inevitably we always end up writing a song if we're hanging out and there's a guitar in the room. And John was playing this cool little melody, and I was like, are we doing this? 'Cause I started humming a melody over it. He was like, oh no, we're doing it. We're supposed to be talking about all the other songs on the record, and we ended up starting to write one. But Brendan, my husband, during 2020, I'll take you back a minute, we were obviously all at home, and so he started writing songs with me just out of curiosity and probably boredom. And he's really good. Like, we've written like 6 or 7 songs together, and he's really good. And he has some really good lines. He really thinks about it long, and not being a co-writer, obviously, for his life, he's really natural at it. And so John and I started going back and forth, and Brendan's like piping in, and I'm like, uh-oh, we got us a third. We have a third writer in the room. And we wrote a song. And we wrote a song about something that my husband had been living with me talking about for a while, just a song about somebody that doesn't serve you anymore and you've got to move on from. I think everybody has a Randy in their life. I think my 2 favorite lines are, and they're both Brendan's, I wish I could claim them, but I can't. Flying a kite in the middle of a hurricane, and tied to the tracks like a penny waiting on a train. That line, they were very much, this song was one of the most co-writing songs I've done in a while. It was like, what about a kite in a hurricane? What about a train? Like, it was really like old school. We wrote it really old school, you know what I mean? Just thinking about the emotion of what we're trying to tell this person. I definitely think it's easier to write looking back at it once you've found the light versus writing about something when you're still in the dark and in the mess of it, So this song is hopeful to me. The song is like, and it's not really mean. It's just like, damn it, Randy, like, do better, And I feel like, also John Randall's real name is Randy, so we always say damn it, Randy anyway. So, it's one of my favorite songs. I also love that it feels like a little bit to me like it could have been on Revolution. It feels like a throwback to like a sound that I've had a lot throughout my career, and it sounds like a song that will stand the test of time. I feel like the question about this song is just, who's your Randy? Because everybody has one. There's always a story of somebody you want to say, damn it, wish you'd have done better too. I think Santa Fe is just a romantic place in general. It's just beautiful. I'm really drawn to the desert. I love how wild the West feels still, and the artisans there and the food and just the vibe. I feel like Santa Fe has such a magic to it, and you can't help but romanticize it. I feel like Santa Fe, it's just, I got to write with Dean Dillon. It was the first time we'd ever written. And Jessie Jo Dillon. So it was really cool to write with a father-daughter combo because I used to write songs with my dad. And so it felt very important to me to be in that room. And Jesse Frazier, who's a great friend of mine. And Dean just was being Dean. He's magical. When you're in the room with him, you really sit up straight and you really think about every word that comes out of your mouth and every word that goes on the paper and every little nuance in the vocal, because he's such a songwriting beast and such a, an icon. Every song I've ever loved, Dean was probably a writer on, So I feel like that pushed us to really write something that was worthy of Dean being in the room. And Santa Fe landed there for me. Dean, we were writing with him, and Dean was the muse, and he knows it. It's just, you sort of go in a direction when he's in the room. You know where to go. And my country heart was so happy to go all the way in that direction, to go all the way to just a sad country song, because that's where my heart truly lives at the end of the day. I really felt like it was a duet from day one. I thought it should be a duet, and I really thought it should be a Texan because of the record and the theme and what that song kind of feels like. And so I texted Parker McCollum and I was like, I'm gonna send you a song. No is a fine answer. And he hit me back immediately and was like, are you kidding me? It's like, he has a lot of the same influences that I have, and a lot of the same music. We love a lot of the same things. We were influenced by the same things. And so that song did the same thing to him that it did to me, which was feel very nostalgic, and he said, you know, I'm honored to sing on this. And I don't know, Santa Fe felt like the biggest responsibility to me as a performer. And I don't know why, but I think it's just because of the song's great, and there were great writers on it, and it needed to be up to par. Parker, I think, has a lot of the same heart for Texas that I have. I mean, that's just part of being born there and being especially in the music scene, because it is so influential. I mean, Willie and Waylon and the boys, you know, it's like it started there. And so I think, you know, no matter if you're mainstream country or Texas country or red dirt country or whatever it is, I think that coming from Texas, both Parker and I have a different approach to songs. That's why this one felt really right for the two of us. I wanted Wranglers to make a point, and I think that the broody smokiness and the nervous energy was really crucial for this track. And I talked about it a lot with JR, with John, about I really wanted to get this right, because it reminds me of, you know, the woman scorn thing kind of worked for me in my career. So going away from that too long feels like something's missing in my records and missing in my set and missing in myself. And so when I heard Wranglers, I was like, oh, there it is. She's back. I just think it's like hooky.
It's a real hooky. Well, it might even be. I was thinking it might be pretty on like gut strings.
Yeah.
Unless it gets too pretty, too light.
But I just think the lyrical and like how the melody
it flows.
It fits in here.
Yeah.
Audra May is one of my favorite writers and favorite people. One of the staples for me is Little Red Wagon, and Audra May wrote that as well. I'm always looking for what I can't write myself. We were writing for at a little retreat for something else, and just we're girl talking, you know, we were telling some truths and talking about our past, and there were a lot of things said in that room, and there was a lot of tequila, and a month later she texted me Wranglers. It was just a demo of her and a guitar, and she said, I songed it, I hope you don't mind. And I said, uh-oh, what did she song? And I heard Wranglers, and I was like, that's pretty epic. You know, at first I was kind of pissed, because I was like, damn it, I didn't think of that. Damn it, Randy. Do better, Randy. But I was like, this song, I listened to it a few times before I gathered all the information, and I just felt like I need a song where I can light a match again, and this was it. Best line to sing in Wranglers was probably, damn, they take forever to burn. And you only know that by doing it. Wranglers felt like OG Miranda to me. Felt like, you know, the songs that really launched my career before I sort of settled into like, hey, I have other things to say besides woman scorn songs. You know, I was almost pigeonholed pretty badly in the beginning of my career because I had songs like Kerosene and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Gunpowder and Lead, and I'm a firebrand, yes, but I also had a sensitive side. And so for a while I was like not writing as many like songs about burning houses down and shotguns. You know, I was being an artist and had kind of all of my cards on the table. But I think it's important, the bread and butter for me live and for my heart have been having some of those songs where it's very fiery and very honest and very raw. And so Wranglers felt like it's time to do a song like that again. Yep, that'll do.
That works.
Alimony was the funnest to ride, maybe besides Randy, those two. Because it was Shane, again, he came out to the farm, him and Natalie, and I was showing him the horses, and we were hanging out in the barn, and he was like, well, I have a title, and we had already been there like 2 hours, and he was holding this title in, and I was like, what is it? Because your last one was Looking Back on Lukenbach. What you got now? And he said, if you're gonna leave me in San Antonio, remember the Alimony. And I was like, all right, okay, Shane, showing off. So we went back to the house and like got the guitar, and I specifically was like, I want a shuffle, man. Like I love shuffles so much, and this record needed a shuffle, and I want one in my set. I haven't done one in a while, and so we knew we were gonna write that as a shuffle right off the bat. And my parents were private investigators in Dallas, Texas, and they worked a ton of divorce cases, obviously, in like a highfalutin parts of town. So that song was not hard for me to write. Kind of felt like I'd heard about it my whole life.
That 57 Cadillac and that mini mansion in a cul-de-sac.
I think the lyric in Alimony is a best case scenario for this couple. Because things get ugly when there's money and power involved, you know? And I had a front row seat to it my whole childhood. So, you know, I think this guy gets out pretty easy if all he has to do is move back in with his mom. Just watching my friends and watching life around me happen, it's like divorce sucks really bad, but then you get over the hump, and it's sort of like that same sentiment in Randy. You're like, I made it to the other side and now I can laugh about it. And I think Alimony puts the humor back in something that's pretty shitty, you know? I mean, this play on words, it seems so obvious. Like, if you're gonna leave me in San Antonio, remember the alimony. It's like, I can't believe nobody thought of it before, but that just tells you, that's one of my favorite things about writing, is there's always something else around the corner.
If you're gonna be a dumbass, honey, I hope you remember the alimony.
Damn right. I think No Man's Land it's a love song to me. You know, it's one of my favorite songs I've maybe ever written. I wrote it with Luke Dick, and he had a start on it and sent it to me, and it really struck me. The lyric was so beautiful, and it really felt like, oh, this is how I can explain it to the man that's willing to love a girl like me, a free spirit, a wildflower, a wild card, but a big heart and like all the love to give. You know, I feel like it's the sentiment of love her but leave her wild, and I literally have wild tattooed on my foot from that statement because it means so much to me. And I think No Man's Land is just a song explaining that to, like, basically, you know, also if you're talking to a friend and they're like, I'm dating this person and they're kind of a free spirit and they're their own person, they're authentic, they're who they are. It's like, well, that's why you want to love them, because they're genuine. But that comes with its own risks, you know? And it's not really a warning, it's just a, let me tell you what you're getting into. And if you want to jump off and take this ride with me, then let's go. Just don't fence me in. That's the rule. And I feel like No Man's Land says it so beautifully. And again, it's one of those songs where you're like, hasn't been written yet, you know? And it felt like a big responsibility because that title holds so much weight to me. But Luke is a girl dad, and he gets it, you know? Come with me. Let's do this together versus I'm your property.
She might be 90 miles from Pecos.
90 miles from Pecos is the middle of nowhere, and it's also a feeling. It's also a, you know, for a creative mind, it's a place you go a lot. I think No Man's Land is not a classic love song, but it is a love song. And I think it's for both people in the relationship. It's a reminder to the one that is free, and also a reminder to the one that is going on the journey with this soul that's a wanderer. I Hate Love Songs is a Marfa song that Jack Ingram and John Randall and I wrote in Marfa in one of the trips we were on to make the Marfa tapes. And it just never, we always loved I Hate Love Songs. We were all drawn to it from the first note, from the first like line and riff when we were writing it. And we were all like, it's one of those songs you're like, ow, like you feel it as the words are going on the paper. But it didn't find a home until now. I don't know if I think it was just about timing and like sentiment and emotion, I guess. And it didn't really land anywhere. And we kept going back to it. And if I look back through our group thread with Jack and John, we've probably sent that song to each other like 10 times, just at random times. Like someone will re-listen to the demo and be like, man, this song's good. And I don't know, it just felt really like this was the record to put it on. It was kind of a idea of like, how do we explain how much this person gave to this other person? Have you ever loved somebody like a preacher loves Sunday from the deepest part of your tattered heart? It's like from that first 4 lines, it just really, it draws you in. It draws you into being like, how much do they love this person? And then we go on. And there's not really a chorus. And there's not a bridge, really. It's just a story. And we didn't think it needed structure like a regular song because it's just, the track builds the emotion of the lyric with you. And it's emotional. I mean, Marianne, my manager, and I were driving in her car on the way back from a photo shoot, and we were listening because I'd finally gotten the mixes, and we both got very emotional on that song. Not just because of what it says, but it's just, the person's very broken, but it was worth it. Whatever story is lived out in I Hate Love Songs, I think 99% of people would do it again, because it seems like it was, to love that big, you gotta hurt that big, I guess. I didn't do any sacking on this record myself because I really wanted the emotion of just the raw vocal, and like we didn't overthink it or overtune it or overdo it. You know what I mean? I wanted it to just kind of be genuine. Not that any other vocals aren't, just this record's different. And so I was very specific about who I wanted to sing on what, because I really wanted the tones to match the emotion of whatever track. I feel like I Hate Love Songs it's country because we tell the hard truth in country music, and this song is the hard truth. I feel like this record is a tour of a lot of almost every influence I've ever had musically. It's kind of a tour of, where I come from, what has influenced me, the music I love, the music I want to make, the music I want to listen to, the music I want other artists to make. And I say that because it's genuine and authentic, and I feel like that's what I'm always drawn to from all the artists that have inspired me. And it was real important to me to make a record. My husband said, I don't think I've ever heard a record of yours that sounded more like you. The beginning and end were on purpose. It was like, we're gonna start out and end in the same level of brokenness. And I thought that was important. The looking back, there's a lot of that in this record. There's a lot of reflecting. And I don't know that was on purpose, but now that we're talking about it song by song, I realized how much reflection there is. And I think maybe a lot of that had to do with not only the material, but the place and, getting out of a deal that I'd been 20 years on this label and Sony, and starting kind of fresh and going back home to do that. It makes sense that there's a lot of reflection because I've been making records now for 20 years. And so it makes sense to sort of go back to some of the emotions that I've felt as an artist and as a person through the years and sort of put them in one place. And I think Postcards from Texas does that.